Welcome back to another episode of Caps Off by the Game Day. It is Fantasy Recaps Tuesday.
Dude.
We're live. TikTok, YouTube, Twitter. We're live in studio with Felipe. He's back. He took a red eye last night from Frisco, California.
Frisco.
How was it? How was the game?
Dude, I'm exhausted. Got in this morning, like an hour and a half of traffic on the way from the airport to the office. Didn't even make it home. So like in the airport fit and shit, you know. But hey man, we're back. We're back in the studio. Get to talk about week 5. My guy Justin Fields is back in the top 5 conversation. QB3, we're gonna get into it, so that's pretty exciting. My other guy, Lamar Jackson, is not being helped by his teammates. I know we're gonna talk about that too, but I'm excited to get back into it, bro. I know you had a big week too. Miami,
Dolphins.
Miami has the Dolphins.
Are great football team. I mean, I forgot that they played it after every score and then every extra point. So yeah, it was a little OD, but it was a good time, man. Dolphins, Giants, Matan, and I had a good time.
I am jealous, not only from a football standpoint, but from a fantasy standpoint. Like, you always want to have guys from your favorite team on your fantasy team, like guys that just perform. Like, these guys are gonna go off and shit like that. Cowboys are fucking worthless right now. CD's not getting the ball. Tony Pollard can't do anything. The Dolphins, the HN, I know we're going to talk about his injury and stuff like that, but like Waddle finally got in the end zone. Tyreek Hill is a fucking ticking time bomb to go for 80 yards. Like, insane.
The Dolphins right now have probably the best offense outside of probably the Niners for fantasy production. I would even say the Dolphins probably have the better offense for fantasy than the Niners, only because there's so many mouths to feed, and it's going to run through Christian McCaffrey. But Mostert found the end zone. HN found the end zone. Tyreek's going to find the end zone. I don't even think actually Tyreek scored a touchdown, but he did. He had that long bomb.
He did.
Jalen Waddle caught a touchdown, and Waddle hasn't even played well. It's crazy. The Dolphins offense, this was their worst game of the year. They only had, I think, they limited plays, obviously, because they took off all the starters in like the end of the third, fourth, and they started like over 500 yards of offense.
Yeah, it's insane.
It's insane.
Dude, they're like literally, like we talked a bit about this yesterday on the regular pod, but they just look like they're having fun out there. Yeah. Like it looks so easy to them. Like they're playing a fucking video game.
It's fun, man.
You love to see it.
It's fun, man.
They're playing fantasy in real life. That's what it is.
At one point, but last week, I almost had Mostert, Tyreek Hill, and HN on my team, and I would have started all of them because one of which is going to at least have that game. We're obviously going to get into HN's injury. A lot actually happened in week 5. A ton of fantasy work. Obviously, the running back positions right now is probably the most ambiguous. I would say you don't know what the fuck is going on with running backs. So we're definitely going to break everything down. We're going to talk through some biggest losers, some biggest winners. Cooper Kupp obviously was back, so it was nice to see him play. Go through some, highlights, and then, submit your fantasy questions. We'll see if we can answer them and kind of go through it. Shout out Noah, who just said, "Yo, this is my first live I'm catching." Welcome to the live, brother.
Hell yeah, Noah.
If you have a fantasy question, make sure to let us know. But I want to start with the biggest losers from week 5. Week 5 definitely brought us some losers. The first one I want to start with is actually on the defensive side of the ball. It's not really something that I feel is like the sexiest, but I think their defense is going to hurt their offense, and that's Buffalo's defense. Buffalo's defense is losing Matt Milano for the season. Daquan Jones is going to be out for a couple of weeks. That is definitely going to affect the way that offense can run. But if that defense is going to be giving up a lot more points, Matt Milano is one of the best linebackers in the NFL, so losing him is definitely troublesome. What are your thoughts on that?
It could be a positive thing. I mean, the defense is giving up more points. The offense is going to have to show out and put up more points. That's one thing Josh Allen can do. Another thing he can do is turn the ball over a lot. So maybe that'll lead to more of those. But I don't know. I always lean on the positive side for Josh Allen. And I think if they're having to get in more shootouts, that's actually a good thing. And so, I mean, maybe another angle to look at this with this Bills defense's injury and stuff like that is whoever's playing Buffalo, maybe there's some added firepower for those like offensive players that could be going against them. For sure.
Another one that you could definitely speak on. Another big loser that I don't think is on your list that I added last minute is Dak Prescott in the entire Cowboys offense right now. I mean, Dak Prescott right now is QB 21 through 5 games.
It's atrocious.
They have a run-heavy approach. Now, I still am going to say when we do our fantasy buy low, sell high episode on Thursday that both CD to me and Tony Pollard must be a buy low. Because naturally the offense has to change. We always say in fantasy, like if the team's been performing poorly and the fantasy guys aren't performing either, then like there's a correlation between like better days are ahead. Now, if the team's playing well and the fantasy guys are playing poorly, then that's worried, room for concern.
Yeah.
But I do think better days are ahead. But it is concerning. The run-heavy approach is definitely not beneficial for those assets.
It's not only that, even when they're going in their passing formations and actually throwing the ball, like they're not targeting the guys. They're not targeting CD. CD has, in the past 3 games, 15 total targets.
It's crazy.
which is insane. Not even 15 catches, like 15 targets. And so they're not even looking at it. It's not game planning for them. You like to talk about manufactured touches. This is like the opposite. They're like literally manufacturing non-touches. They're like, let's get the ball. Like, you're giving the ball to like you said, it's run heavy, but why would you favor Rico Dowdle on some carries over trying to get your guys involved in the receiving game? Even Brandon Cooks hasn't done anything all year. Yep. He's an explosive, like, he's ready to go. He's ready to explode at any moment. Imagine he was on the Dolphins. Y'all would know how to use him perfectly. Crazy, And so these Cowboys targets, obviously, they're not, or these top playmakers that you thought would be top playmakers in the beginning of the year, they're not doing what we expected them to do. And I actually don't know if it's going to change, because why wouldn't they have changed it already? I mean, I know, like, you have to hit the ground, the floor to really, like, create some change, but Mike McCarthy is so stubborn in his ways.
That's fair.
Look, I think they're both holds right now, like CeeDee Lamb and Tony Pollard. I don't know if people are going to be wanting to trade for them. I don't know if we're even doing a fucking buy low sell segment right now, whatever the fuck it is. But I would probably just hold on to them. And they're still must starts just because they could pop at any moment. And look, this is probably the worst they're going to look at this moment. You play the Niners, great defense. They're going to get better. So I'll just kind of hold on to them. But it sucks to see that, like, two guys that were probably going in the top 15, Pollard and CD,
it's crazy,
are not performing.
Look, I do think better days are ahead. And you said, like, why would they change now? I think because fortunately you have a game next week and then the bye is coming up. Buys are usually the opportunity where things get to begin to change, hopefully. So I see it with the same thing happening with the Packers offense, right? They have a bye this week. They're going to get Aaron Jones back. You know, I've seen on some lists, like, Christian Watson was not the guy that you wanted to draft in fantasy. You should have faded him. But I think, like I said, if the offense isn't performing and the team isn't performing well, like, they're losing games, things are going to change, right? Like, so I will say Kellen Moore probably would have been more beneficial. He would have had more creativity in the offense.
Oh, for sure.
But you brought up the Mike McCarthy example with the Dolphins. If Chase Claypool goes out and has 400 to 500 yards this season with how bad he's been in Chicago and not being used, it will be the perfect example of these, you know, young offensive-minded coaches being able to put players in a position to succeed, and Mike McCarthy just isn't doing that. So I definitely think the Cowboys were a major loser. Another major loser is really Baltimore's offense in its entirety, right? You mentioned Lamar's not getting any help. There's far too many drops. On our recaps episode I talked about yesterday, they had 7 credited drops. That's the third most in a game since 2017.
Yeah.
Which is unacceptable. 3
of them were touchdowns. So if you have Lamar Jackson, which I have, unfortunately.
We both. Actually, I don't. No, what am I saying? I don't have Lamar.
You don't? Okay. Well, good for you. Good for you. Because, like, I don't know what I would rather have. I mean, I say this, but I actually would rather have what happened with Lamar, because at least receivers can probably fix drops. But it just sucks that a guy finishes with 9 fantasy points, which is a terrible performance for a quarterback, especially a guy that you at least should project around 20 usually, if not way more on a good week. If you actually, 3 of those drops, 7 drops total, like you said, 3 of them were touchdowns. Straight up touchdowns. So you add 3, that's 4 points each, 12. And then you, with the yards included in that, I don't know, let's throw another 6. Bro, like,
we're already at 21 points.
Like, add 20 to what he just, like, you're getting close to like 30. Like, it just sucks to see a team let down a quarterback, not only in, like, in real life, actually losing the game. Obviously, that's, like, more important, but to us, what's more important is fantasy. And it also just it makes your whole fantasy situation fucked up if you got Lamar at quarterback and he's not scoring what he's supposed to score. Not only that, but, like, if you started Zay Flowers, obviously you're not getting too much out of there. Like, Mark Andrews, you're starting for sure. Just not great.
It's tough. I saw a video which I didn't know this, but the reason actually these drops are happening is because the wide receiver coach is making the wide receivers and tight ends practice by catching a rugby ball.
Why?
Because he thinks that you need to be able to catch any of these balls if they're not perfect spirals, but the rugby ball's bigger. So I don't fucking understand how that translates to a football. Football's a completely different size. So go back, when we get off the pod, go back and watch the videos of the drops. Their hands are fucking wider. Like, so the drops are a byproduct of how the coaching is actually.
That's so dumb.
It's
also, wouldn't it be easier to catch a bigger ball than a smaller ball at some point?
Yeah, but it's rounder. It's rounder. So, like, if I'm trying to catch a ball here, naturally the football is going to be here.
Bro, like,
it's crazy.
Steph Curry's not practicing shooting threes with a fucking volleyball, dog.
You're doing too much. Yeah.
Like, what are we doing? That's so
way
stupid.
Too much. I'd also say Todd Monken was supposed to be this offensive guru coming from fucking Georgia and hasn't looked good at all. Like, just looks out of sorts. Better days are probably coming, but I definitely think Baltimore's offense.
I will say this: better days are coming. Drops are fixable. And guys go on bad runs. They get the yips. It's like going cold in basketball, right? It's the same thing that happens. And with Todd Monken, these receivers are open. And Lamar looks great. Like, oh, come on. I mean, Jack pulled up the passer rating last week, just passer rating ever since Brock Purdy became the starter last year. So like midway through last year, just passer rating. It doesn't even include rushing at all. So usually that goes against quarterbacks who are good at rushing.
Yep.
Lamar Jackson's third.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And so he's a great passer.
Yeah.
And he's finding his guys. They're not catching it. I think that's going to turn around.
Yeah. A few more big losers from week 5. Ramondre Stevenson. He's losing playing time to Zeke right now. The offense looks bad. I'm fading every single person on that offense. Like,
it sucks.
Now, the problem with Ramondre is obviously the whole entire running back as field, as we've discussed, like, it's just a complete wash right now. There's not any consistency outside of Christian McCaffrey. Achane was the next closest to consistency. He's, going to be out for a couple of weeks. Mostert, I guess you can put in there. But outside of that, Bijan maybe, but Bijan hasn't exploded to the extent that we've, expected. Ramondre right now, he's a major loser. He's lost playing time. Usage rates have gone down. I'm fading that entire Patriots offense. Another big one that I want to bring up is James Cook. James Cook, had only 50% of the carries this week. He's kind of a low-end RB2 at the moment. He was RB15 through 5 weeks. But I think he could still finish as a top 24 running back.
Yeah.
But the usage isn't there like we had expected.
Yeah, it kind of sucks. I feel like I know there was a lot of hype going into the season with James Cook, but at the same time, we've just seen Buffalo do this in the past when they had, Zach Moss and Devin Singletary. And like, you never knew who was getting the ball, what was going on there. And I mean, to see only 50% of the carries, especially considering he's an explosive back, so he can do what, when he touches the ball, he can make a lot out of it. I think you just hope that the running back position is so bad. Even you just mentioned Ramondre, I'm probably still starting him because like I just don't know what I'm getting from other guys.
Yeah.
And so you probably you're still starting guys like that. You're gonna still start James Cook, but it's nice to see he's not getting carries. But what I will say though is kind of what you mentioned before, like with the Cowboys, you worry about a team, a team winning and the guys not getting their plays because they're a certain amount of points or whatever it may be, because it's like, oh, they can sustain this and still not, these guys don't have to perform. But the Bills just lost this past week. Maybe they're like, all right, let's continue to give our guys the most. Our best guys the ball because that's going to give us the best chance to win. Losing to the Jags, it wasn't good, obviously. So maybe there's an uptick for James Cook. But
yeah, I mean, I get it. It would actually bring me to my next point, which is like my last loser that I wrote down was like Derrick Henry owners, because you got Tajay Spears, who's closing in on him. He has 3 top 30 finishes in 5 weeks, which is technically a flex play. Derrick Henry was RB27 on the day. Derrick Henry, the only upside to a Derrick Henry is if he gets traded to like a potential Buffalo, right? Like at the deadline, if Tajay Spears is playing better and you could cut that contract loose, especially knowing where the team is at right now, I don't know. That's the only upside that I see with Derrick Henry. So like, I definitely think Derrick Henry owners, that was a big loser.
Bro, that's Derrick Henry, like, this is one of the few guys here because, like, the other guys, it's just like, oh, get him more touches, James Cook, whatever. We know the talent they have. It feels like usage. It feels like not being in the right opportunity. Tony Pollard, for example. Derrick Henry's just he's worse than Tajay Spears. Yeah. Tajay Spears is a better running back.
Well, he's younger. And
he's younger. He's more explosive. Yeah. He's more versatile.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry, like, he's always been like heavy-footed. Like, he's not quick. He's never been real quick. He's fast. He's not quick.
He's just a big body. He's always been a big body.
But it's really it's just kind of catching up with him. It feels like he's like really hitting that decline. Everybody was talking about when is Travis Kelce going to hit his. Derrick Henry definitely hit his. Like, look, I still think he can be useful in the right situation. You think back years when, like, all right, LeGarrette Blount was kind of like falling off, and then he went to a right system with the Patriots and like still did his thing, scored like 15 touchdowns. Derrick Henry can still be that guy to do that. He's just not your top 5 running back every single week that he used to be.
Yeah, I'm with that. So, Josh Pilecki on YouTube said, is Jalen Waddle a loser? I don't say Jalen Waddle's a loser. He found the end zone. Obviously 4 receptions, I believe. Yeah, maybe 5 targets. Look, I think the Dolphins are going to get into some shootouts, right? Like, Jalen Waddle's going to have some days. Now, he's not the wide receiver 1, low-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2 that you may have expected. Luckily, he found the end zone. I know we keep talking about, like, if the offense is good and yet the player isn't getting that production, it is kind of worrisome. But like we've said, the Dolphins' offense is probably the best offense for fantasy production.
Easy.
So no matter what, Jalen Waddle will always be a must start. He's going to have days where he blows up and Tyreek Hill doesn't. He's going to have days where Tyreek's the guy and Jalen Waddle does not either. But the best part about Jalen Waddle is his average depth of target is always going to save him in fantasy. So, like, he's going to be targeted down the field at least 15 yards, you're usually going to see a stat line that is similar to what he had, which is maybe like 4 receptions for 89 yards type of thing. It's just whether or not he finds the end zone. So,
bro, real quick, Jalen Waddle had 10 targets, the most out of any player for the Dolphins. So you're not worried about Jalen Waddle. It's just about converting though. He had 5 for 35,
5 for 35,
and a touchdown.
Oh, I thought it was like 4 for 89. Maybe it was last week.
Potentially,
I think it was 4 for 89.
But anyways, 10 targets. You're not worried about that, bro. He's gonna get his.
Yeah. Let's move into our biggest winners from Week 5 before we go into some deeper talk. The first one I want to say is obviously Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. Like, hey, welcome back to the party, right? Like, Jamar had a crazy day. He's finally been the guy that you draft him to be in those top 2 picks.
Hell yeah.
Joe was QB8 on the week. Jamar jumped up to wide receiver 5 on the year with just that
crazy
performance.
What an insane performance does.
52.
Who thought that DJ Moore, like after seeing that Thursday night performance, who thought somebody would beat out DJ Moore the same week?
It's crazy.
Even in the season, Moore's performance could have been the highest all year.
Yeah.
And then Chase comes out on Sunday and does his thing.
You knew it was going to come at some point. I would also argue that, like, I'd take it a step further. And if you own any of these Bengals players, like, that's you're a winner because Joe Burrow looked good.
Yeah.
You could probably put him back in your lineup based off of that performance. When T. Higgins comes back, he's probably going to get his production. Jamar's going to, his is going to lower a little bit. That's a better sign for that offense. So I think that they're definitely a winner if you have any of those guys on your team. Another big one, Calvin Ridley, like fucking finally came back. He had a fuck ton of targets. I don't know how many targets he had. I didn't write it down. I think he went out at one point with like potential concussion and then was cleared. So,
and they won.
And in a game where, and he didn't even find the end zone. And in a game where like you needed a go-getter, that he looked good. Travis Etienne looked good. So I think Calvin Ridley, that's a major one.
Manufactured touches.
Touches.
2 rushes too. You had that 14 yards, 7 receptions on 8 targets, 122 yards. And like we said, you're winning. Like this guy goes out, balls out, and now you win. Like it's a sign for more things to come.
I agree. I want to move into the big one, which is Cooper Kupp. Like if you're a Cooper Kupp owner, you probably got him late. If you drafted like closer to the season, late in, early second, late second, and you just got a steal because he came back and both Coop and Puka earned a 30% target share, 30% plus target share, both finished as top 12. Coop had 19 fantasy points. They said he was going to be on a snap count. He was not. He looked fucking good. On the first drive, he had like 5 receptions for 63 yards or something. Like if you had Coop and you held on to him, you got to be proud of yourself. You could put him in your lineup. He and Puka are going to, convert consistently. You got to be happy with that.
Love to see it, man. I tried to make a trade for Kupp right before this past week and ended up not going through. But it's almost like, why would you ever doubt a guy that before he ever got hurt, there was that crazy stat about like he was just further ahead as far as 20-point weeks, the most out of any other receiver, like by far over the past couple of years. Like Cooper Kupp is like that when he's healthy, bro. He might be the best in the league fantasy-wise.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I just traded. It's funny because I traded Coop right before this week, worried that something was going to happen with his hamstring. I got Tyreek, so I'm not as mad about it, and I got Kittle out of it, and I had a ton of wide receivers. But Coop is a guy that he's been the most consistent fantasy guy, like you said. So you got to be happy with that. Some other big ones, Zach Moss. Like if you're a Zach Moss owner, you were concerned with Jonathan Taylor, coming back off IR. Now, granted, they did give Jonathan Taylor that money that he wanted. He finally got paid. So we do want to always follow the money. But Zach Moss is showing why, like, even with Jonathan Taylor back, he can be the complementary piece. So if you have Zach Moss, he's going to be someone that you still could start, even if Jonathan Taylor is the guy that is that RB1 when he officially gets back. But he was on a snap count. But Zach Moss, massive day.
But I was feeling for Jonathan Taylor managers. Obviously he was on a snap count, so he's not going to go crazy like game 1, stuff like that. But just see Zach Moss go crazy. I assume he's not going to get as Jonathan Taylor gets more touches, Zach Moss is going to go down. But that efficiency was insane for him. Yeah,
it was crazy.
And so hopefully that's not if you're a Taylor manager, you're not a Colts fan, you don't really care about how the Colts do. You just want Jonathan Taylor to go off. You don't really want to see that from Zach Moss.
A few more. Breece Hall, 22 of 29 attempts on the ground, 177 yards, RB3 on the day. Look, Robert Saleh said he's going to be unleashed, and he was certainly unleashed. Now, granted, that Broncos offense is that Broncos defense is susceptible to these types of performances. But
you don't say, as a Dolphins fan.
You do not say. Yes, I do say. Breece Hall, I mean, what a fucking day for Breece.
I mean, bro, we're getting to a point right now where it's like I could be in the backfield playing running back against that Broncos defense, and you got to start me.
Yeah, but you were also a dog.
I was a dog. But I'm just saying, like, A-Chain, Mostert in the same game, 4 touchdowns each, right? Wasn't it like 8 touchdowns between them? And now you got Breece Hall. Like, whoever is running back, whoever is in the backfield against this defense, bro, you better start the fuck out of them.
Yeah, Breece is also approaching, like, just seeing that, it tells me that, like, he could have RB1 usage. So if you held on to him for this entire, these first 5 weeks, you got to be really happy with Breece Hall. My other two, obviously, we're going to talk about Achane, but Achane, when healthy, he's an RB1 in fantasy. And it's crazy because he is doing it on so little touches.
He's my favorite running back.
That's fucking good.
My favorite running back. I told Jack this weekend in Sanford, bro. He's just like he doesn't get it. He's a hater, obviously. But just the way he plays the game, and I know this is a fantasy, but like, man, he just looks so fluid. It's like we haven't seen a running back that look this fucking fluid. He touches the ball, and he plays running back like Brock Purdy plays quarterback. You know what I mean? It's just so smooth. You don't see with Tyreek Hill, you see that like the twitch.
Yeah.
With H.A., it's like
he's like floating on a cloud. He's floating. Did you see that run he had? That 78-yard run? Yeah, he just looked like added. He's one of those guys where he's moving so fast and it actually looks slow.
Yes.
Is that weird to say? Like,
yeah, it's I had a coach in high school that used to say like, a lot of guys that are just like so smooth as runners, you can't tell how fast they are.
Yeah.
But it's just he's always one step faster.
Oh.
So he's always whoever it is, doesn't matter how fast his defender is, you're always one step faster. You don't know how fast you are, but that's
it's crazy because normally in fantasy we're gonna say usage is what makes you an RB1.
Right.
But how could you not consider Achane an RB1 when he could break open a 75-yard touchdown every given Sunday? And the crazy part is he's second in rushing yards in the NFL right now. Behind Christian McCaffrey.
It was like 40 yards behind McCaffrey or some shit like that.
And has more than 30 less attempts, which is insane.
It's crazy.
So Achane's going to be out a couple weeks when we're not even going to talk about the Dolphins. Obviously, it's a fantasy episode. But when he does come back, Achane is an RB1, a set it and forget it. Mostert is also a guy that's going to get upticked. But my last winner before we move into some injuries is Dameon Pierce, actually. I've seen on some lists like Dameon Pierce was a loser. But for me, he's a winner. I think we had Faraz on here a couple weeks ago, and the offense didn't look as good as it looked. But the thing with Dameon Pierce is that, like, A, you're not going to get any return with him, and B, they're missing 3 offensive linemen. Like, he's a guy that if the offense is going to be good, he's going to get usage. And he did. Like, he got close to 100% of the snaps. Devin Singletary didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Last week, he scored on the ground, but he had a passing touchdown, a receiving touchdown called back. So I think better days are ahead for Dameon Pierce. He's currently like a mid-range RB2, but he had 20 carries, closing into getting those 100% of the carries. He's getting reinforcements on the line. You got to be happy if you're Dameon Pierce.
I like the usage, and I like the fact that there's really nobody else back there.
Yeah.
Like, they got Singletary, right? I mean, he didn't even play. Is he hurt? He just not play?
He barely played.
So that's cool. I mean, because he got a target. All right, so Devin Singletary got 1 target. But what worries me about Pierce is that, 20 carries, 66 yards. It's
not efficient.
3.3 is bad. But if they don't have anybody else back there, so they're just gonna give him the ball, that's fine.
I mean, look, if they're gonna get reinforcements back on the offensive line, better days are gonna be ahead. They obviously went up against the Falcons. The Falcons have a pretty good defense. So look, again, it's one thing if there were so many running backs dominating. It's another thing that there are no running backs that you can trust. So like Dameon Pierce, if you held on to him, maybe better days are coming. And I do think better days are coming. But I want to move into some injuries, some big injuries obviously happening. So let's make sense of them. And I want to know your thoughts. Obviously, Justin Jefferson's the first one. He's going on IR with his hamstring injury. What do you make of Jettis' future? Because let's give context to that. They offered him a contract, a record-breaking contract extension in the offseason, right before the season. He declined it. I think because he was, let's just make sense of it, like he was probably just waiting to see what that team looked like and what the future holds. I don't think we've ever seen a wide receiver like Jettis not want to sign that extension like off their first couple years. Like I can't think of any because usually you take that money. If Jettis goes and tests free agency, which like it's his 4th year? It's his 3rd year. 4th year? This is his 4th year. So he would be a free agent this offseason? Going into his 5th? Or they'd have to exercise?
Try to get an extension. Condo, correct? Yeah? Producer?
I thought it's his 3rd.
Nah, bro, it's his 4th. He was CD's year. It's his 4th.
Yeah, you're correct.
It's his 4th. So he's as a 1st-round pick. No, he was a 2nd-round pick. So this is last year.
No. He's a 1st-round pick.
Jefferson was a 1st-round pick?
Yeah, he was late. Yeah, because they took Jalen Reagor before him and everything. Yeah, the Eagles took Jalen Reagor before him. Could you imagine Jettis?
I just remember a lot of receivers went ahead of Jefferson, but that receiver class was loaded. including my guy Henry Ruggs.
I'm pulling it up right now. I want to see when his contract is up.
Okay,
he's an unrestricted free agent, 25. So he'd be on the deal. He'd have a $19 million base salary next year. So he'd be.
All right, so he's trying to get he declined an extension. I don't look. This is a fantasy episode, but it kind of plays into what we were talking about yesterday. Like, should the Vikings blow it up? Maybe like this is a sign for things to come. Like without Justin Jefferson is their best player. So if they don't have Jettas, they don't have anything really. Like they got some guys that can do a little something. I mean, Addison on his rookie year, like okay, cute, but they're not. What's their record? Are they 1-4?
1-4.
They're in play for Caleb Williams at this point. Kirk is on the last year, I believe. And so maybe Justin Jefferson, like this team goes bad, and they finish really bad by the end of the year. They're in the play for Caleb Williams. Justin Jefferson can kind of like exercise his options. We're in the NFL today where guys kind of have some leverage. They can kind of we've seen guys, not so much receivers to this extent, but we've seen guys try to force their way out in different situations. Jonathan Taylor just did it. We didn't expect that this offseason. So who knows if that's a situation like this.
Yeah, I mean, also, like, you got to think about it around if they trade Kirk Cousins. Like, I think that's a major thing. Even if you have Jettis, like, the fact that he's going on IR, even if he was healthy, like, you were still concerned about, what's going to happen with Kirk Cousins. I think from dynasty perspective, he's probably fine because no matter what
Jefferson?
He's
still
totally fine.
Top 3 pick.
But for right now in redraft, it is really tough. The only case I'd make for maybe Jettis right now is if you're 4-0 or 4-1, 5-0, wait maybe like 2 weeks and put a feeler out there for Jettis. See what happens with that situation, because if the Vikings happen to roll off a couple games, maybe they keep Kirk, but you might be able to get Jettis because a team needs weapons, and you might be able to add Jettis to your team. But that's definitely concerning. Another big one, Achane. Obviously, he's missing multiple weeks. Potential IR candidate.
Yeah.
I mean, look, Mostert's up, going to be fine. In replacing him, but it's tough. We were talking about Achane. But yeah, dude, even if you want to take it a step further, the players that are going to come off IR if he does go on IR for the Dolphins in November is like a core, like an all-star team. You have Jalen Ramsey, Teron Armstead, and Devin Achane, and they hadn't had Jalen Phillips. So Achane's a tough one, man. That's a tough one to swallow.
That sucks, especially in this running back landscape.
It
sucks because you got this guy. You're like, okay, I'm starting him every week.
Yep.
And
look at Jeff Wilson. He's going to be activated off IR. Their 21-day window is opening up. He's a power back. Salvon Ahmed was also good. Obviously, he's not Achane, but he's the speed guy. So he'd be a decent add. Another big one, Travis Kelce. He would have been a DNP. It did not practice if the Chiefs practiced today, or actually yesterday. Sorry. We'll know more today. But that knee injury, I think it was knee or ankle, I don't remember, but it was slightly concerning. But if he doesn't practice this week, it is something to take note of.
For sure.
2 other guys, Dalton Kincaid, Tate Dell, both in concussion protocol. I think the NFL made a rule where if you get into concussion protocol and you play that next Sunday, like the team plays next Sunday, they actually have to sit out. That was what happened because of Tua last year and Kenny Pickett as well, who had concussions. So just got to monitor that, see how they progress. There's a chance they don't play. And last but not least, James Conner just got the update, expected to miss multiple weeks. So James Conner is obviously someone that DeMarcado was the running back that came in for him. He's definitely a somewhat of a priority add in this running back landscape. But yeah, James Conner is going to be out for a decent minute. Question. Yes. Yeah. So, what's his name on Shep834_ just asked basically, what's the uptick on Jordan Addison with Jettis out? What are your thoughts, Felipe?
I mean, I think he'll get more targets. I think he'll get fed more. Kirk Cousins does like to do that, obviously. So he's going to go to his number one guy. That's what he's always done. Even before him, he would go to Diggs. He would go to Thielen. So I think he does look good. It does bode well for Addison. Now, you're not going to expect Jefferson numbers, but yeah, it's a slight upgrade probably.
Yeah, definitely an uptick. KJ Osborne as well. I prefer Addison over KJ Osborne, but he'll be fine. I did see a comment on TikTok. Is Amon Ra still out? Amon Ra is Dan Campbell went on the radio this morning, said he expects him to play this week. So we'll see. Let's just hope it's not a sports hernia. As a reminder, if you want to get in on any of the action with DFS, if you're a DFS guy, we got a ton of promos on thegameday.com. So make sure thegameday.com/promotions to check those out.
Yeah.
Also, if you happen to ask some fantasy questions, right, in about 5 minutes, we're going to go through and try and answer some of yours before we talk about the one thing that we really want to talk about. So make sure to submit your fantasy questions. We're going to get to that. The last thing I want to talk about before we get into the questions, that's really the most important thing for us.
Yeah, our favorite thing
is, as you mentioned, Justin Fields and the Bears.
My guy. Hallelujah.
Let's react to the Bears fantasy day, okay? Because they've had 450 plus yards of offense in back-to-back weeks. Justin Fields over the last 2 weeks has been the QB2. He's QB3 over the season now through 5 weeks through those games. So let's start with Justin Fields. What do you make of Justin Fields' day?
Dude, I feel like deja vu. I mean, we talked about this last week. I was like, this could be similar to what we saw last year. Bad start to the season, and then it started trending in the right direction. And we're like, oh, shit, this guy is legit. Well, here we are. You can see that, I mean, it's early in the season, but 2 great weeks can already put you up there and in that top tier of quarterbacks. And I think it's trending in the right direction. I mean, obviously they played Washington. The defense isn't horrible.
I mean, bro, let's not act like the Commanders are a bad team.
It's a good performance.
They were close with the Eagles.
And who'd they beat the week before that?
The Broncos.
The Broncos. They lost to the Broncos. But Justin Fields played a damn near perfect game, aside from that interception at the end. And so I think this is a trend in the right direction for Justin Fields. I already said it last week, even more so this week. What a great performance. And the fact that they're getting DJ Moore involved more. Definitely didn't want to say that, but DJ Moore getting involved more. And they're just getting in the flow. And that's what you like to see. You want to see confidence with your quarterback, your receivers, your best players getting the ball. And I mean, exciting times ahead. If you have Fields, bro, like you were worried about him before, you're set now. And if anything, I know you love talking about like who's a sell high candidate, guys like that. Fields could be one right now. Which like if you need more depth in other positions, people are going to be salivating over Fields. They're going to think he's going to do this every week. He's not. He'll probably still finish as a top 5 to 7 quarterback. But if you need depth, then get rid of Fields for sure.
Yeah, look, the field. If you drafted Fields, you should have known that the roller coaster was going to happen. Yeah, exactly. Right. Like you weren't going to have a consistent fantasy guy, but he was the QB1 over the last 8 weeks of the season last year. Now, here's I think the biggest takeaway I have with Justin Fields' performance is last year he was the QB1 over the last 8 weeks. Don't quote me on it. He was one of the better ones. I think he was QB1.
Yeah, he was
because of what he did on the ground.
Yeah.
He's not doing anything on the ground right now. Yeah. This is all through the air. So.
He's going dimes, dude. He's looking good.
He looked great in these last 2 weeks. So I'm actually really pleased with him. I would agree with Felipe. Look to sell him. Obviously, quarterbacks are the best people to try and sell for me personally because you could probably get 20 to 21 points from a quarterback.
You replace him, yeah.
Easily. Obviously, you want Justin Fields, but Justin Fields and you pair him with another guy on your team, it's an easy way to upgrade. But Justin Fields, man, this is the type of quarterback that we expected. QB3 over the season just from 2 amazing weeks. So that's a big day. Another big guy, DJ Moore. 16 receptions, 361 yards, and 4 touchdowns over those last 2 weeks. The offense has been humming. He's wide receiver 1 over the last 2 weeks and wide receiver 2 over the season right now because of that big day. What do you make of DJ Moore?
Sell the fuck high.
Yeah, I think you have to.
That's not going to continue. But, I mean, like I said, it's good to see the chemistry rolling between these two guys. What's crazy, they made that trade in the offseason. They have the Panthers' first-round pick next year. And the Panthers look terrible, obviously. So, the Bears are going to get – I'm just excited for the Bears. It's good to see them. It's good to see them performing well. And DJ Moore, the guy they traded for, getting his touches, getting his targets, especially we saw some frustrations early, and he's getting his. So, I think he's going to continue. I think, the chemistry is going to continue to evolve, and he's going to get fed more. Like, they need to. They're performing well when he's getting the ball. But you're not going to see this often from him. Obviously, you're not going to see 50-point performance. I don't think you're going to see many, 25-plus point performances, but I think you can rely on him as definitely a wide receiver 2 flex guy.
Yeah, I agree. Easy. I mean, I think he's in that low end wide receiver 2 with upside range. You're keeping him in your lineup unless you have better options, but I think it's a great sign. I agree with Felipe. Look to sell high. It's just not sustainable, but I do think he'll be a top 24 wide receiver over the season.
People are going to think he's they're going to go crazy for him.
Yeah.
And so you got to sell him now.
Also, you got to keep in mind, and we've talked about this every single week. So if you've been here every single week for Tuesdays Live or Thursdays Live, you've heard us talk not only about Justin Fields that better days are coming, look to sell Achane, look to sell any of these guys that pop off because, again, it's not that you necessarily want to sell them. It's what the perceived value, of their return could be. Right. So you just got to look at it like that. And last but not least, Cole Kmet, tight end 1 over the last 2 weeks, tight end 2 over the course of the season. Look, I'm not expecting Cole Kmet to be fucking Hemi Neutron, but I do think Cole Kmet's a guy you keep in your lineup no matter what, given how that offense is flowing.
And again, same with running back, tight end landscape. Obviously, never been hasn't been great the past few years.
Yeah.
And so when you get a guy like that looks pretty consistent, then you bank on it. Tight end 1 over the past couple of weeks. I think that's just the trend of the offense. Like DJ Moore, obviously, same thing. Justin Fields, same thing. These guys are going to fall off a little bit, but I mean, you can bank on a good floor, I guess, with him, especially with Fields, trending in the right direction. He's going to target his tight end often.
Totally. Let's jump into some fantasy questions. So as a reminder, submit your fantasy questions. I'm looking at the TikTok screen. We got Kondo producing right now. He's going to tell me if there's anything on YouTube. So make sure to submit your fantasy questions. We're going to try and answer them for the next 10 minutes. So EMT said, should I trade Devontae Smith for Amari Cooper, Alexander Madison, and KJ Osborne?
I mean, Devontae's coming off a terrible week. 1.6 points, I think, fantasy-wise. I know because he burned me. But Amari Cooper, KJ Osborne, and who?
It's Amari Cooper, Alexander Madison, and KJ Osborne for Devontae Smith.
It's a lot. I'm not even sure how to evaluate that. Like, Devontae Smith clearly gives you the best ceiling out of those guys. The Browns, they didn't play this week, did they?
Well, no, they were on a bye.
How's Amari been this year? I don't.
He's actually been he's been good. Now, granted, DTR was the quarterback last week. So the way I actually kind of evaluate this, the way I evaluate this is like Amari's pretty similar to Devontae.
Yeah,
I'll be honest. So if you need pieces, I'm not expecting much from Alexander Madison, but if you need pieces, I don't mind that. I think Amari Cooper might be a slight downgrade, but he is the wide receiver 1. And if Deshaun's back, even though his shoulder's been injured, but I expect, here's what I'd say. I would take that trade because I think Amari and Devontae are pretty similar. You get a running back, and KJ might give you some, flex-worthy points with Jettis going down. Let's see. What are some, here's another, well, this I think is the same guy. He's talking about Olave. He, I guess, also has Olave, Amari, Madison, and KJ for Olave. I would keep Chris Olave. I think better days are coming. I would rather trade Devontae Smith for Amari and Madison and KJ. We got a question from Elias. Who else are your wide receivers? I wouldn't say you're screwed. Obviously, he had a good first couple of weeks. He never found the end zone and had those good couple of weeks. I do think better days are ahead for, in general for Chris Olave. I know he scored the touchdown and he only had 2 receptions. I wouldn't say you're screwed. I wouldn't overreact. What would you say?
Yeah. I mean, I don't love him as a wide receiver 1. I don't know why he's your wide receiver 1. You might be running back heavy, I guess. I think you're all right. If you got some depth at receiver, then you're all right. Yeah, you're okay.
Would you start Jordan Addison if you have to?
Yep. Oh, over Olave? Yeah, would you? Yeah.
No. Well, you got to start both. Who else?
You're probably starting both, bro.
Yeah. Someone said, well, here's another one. What should I do with David Montgomery? Set it and forget it right now. Even with Gibbs, he can play. Oh, here's a good question I want to interrupt with. Is it time to move on from CeeDee Lamb?
No, because I don't think people are going to be valued. Bro, this game happened on national television. The biggest game of the year, supposedly, up until the ass whooping that took place. And so everybody was watching CeeDee Lamb just not get targets. He got a couple, he got a few. But like I said, 15 targets over the last 3 weeks. The Cowboys offense got exposed on national television. It got dark, kind of scared me. Cowboys offense got exposed on national television. And so everyone saw that there's problems here. I just don't think you're going to get that much value in return for CD. So I don't think you're trading him. I think you're holding on to him.
Yeah, it's a hold.
He's going to have better days ahead. And look, his floor is still safe right now. Even though he's not getting crazy touches, he's still doing better. He's still putting up wide receiver 2 numbers. So I would hold on to him.
I'd actually flip it. I would go, if you need a wide receiver, you could probably get him for pretty cheap. I think an order would be pretty frustrated because CD is probably the wide receiver 1 on a lot of these teams. I have CD on one of my rosters, and someone's inquired about him, and I have Keenan Allen as my other one. There's no way I'm trading CD. I think better days are ahead for CD Lamb. And what we know, especially look at what happened to AJ Brown. Once you complain about not getting targets, you get fed the next week. So CD's going to get fed this coming week. They're going to go into the bye. Better days are ahead. And I think him and actually McCarthy met yesterday. There was a report over that.
McCarthy's. Come on, man.
You
gotta be better, bro. You gotta be better.
Someone said I traded CeeDee Lamb and McLaughlin for Amon-Ra. That's the backup running back behind Javonte Williams. He had a good week. I love that trade, to be honest, for Amon-Ra.
Okay.
It's actually tough. It's a net for me.
He traded CD and McLaughlin for Amon-Ra.
Amon-Ra, yeah.
Nah, I don't like it.
Yeah.
I think, like I said, better days are ahead of CD. They're similar types of guys in terms of like what you're going to get output wise. CD, I think, has a higher ceiling. And so the fact that you also gave up McLaughlin, who's been playing well, then I don't love that.
Yeah.
Personally.
It's real tough. Here's another question. Roberto said, I just lost Jettis, a wide receiver should is a weird format. Should I try to trade for who should I try and trade for with Joe Burrow and Scary Terry? I just lost Jettis.
Well, with that combo, I mean, you got to look at teams who need a quarterback probably. It's just tough with quarterback because a lot of guys don't value quarterbacks like that, especially Joe Burrow, only one good week.
Yep.
Shit, bro. He wants a receiver to replace him.
Yep.
I don't know, guys in a range that you could probably look at. I think guys like we just talked about him, CD Lamb, you could probably get pretty cheap.
Yeah.
You can, I don't even know, like maybe those two guys you could trade for CD Lamb. You could get a guy that's maybe that's been underperforming probably. You know what I mean? So
I think the only way to go about that is look at the team that doesn't have a quarterback and try and trade him Joe Burrow. I don't think you're going to get a return for Joe Burrow just off of 1 week. He's been terrible, but it's hard to say who you should try and trade for because we can't throw out someone without knowing. If a guy has, let's say he just threw out CeeDee Lamb, but then they have fucking Patrick Mahomes as their quarterback, why would they make that trade?
Exactly.
So you got to find the team that doesn't have a quarterback and then go from there and see what's available. Terry also hasn't been good.
I'm sorry about Terry too, man. I was frustrated. I had a bet on Terry. Just fucking yards or something. I know I had anytime touchdown, and they threw his way twice. So I'm very sorry that you are currently a manager of Terry McLaurin.
A lot of question about Tony Pollard. Should I trade Tony Pollard? What do you make it? What do you do with Tony Pollard?
I think look, his value's low, bro. When you talk about trading guys, I know the immediate thought, the rationale is oh, this guy's not performing for me right now. I got to get rid of him. But your same rationale is the rationale everybody else is using as well. They don't want to trade for a guy like that. So you're not getting great value out of him. He's going to pop. Let's say he pops off this upcoming week against the LA Chargers, which he totally could. They're a terrible run defense. Yeah. Yeah. There's a very good likelihood of that happening. Now you're not going to want to trade him. And guess what? Everybody's going to want him. So it's just you can't think off of, what's been happening these past few weeks. You actually have to analyze it completely. And the fact that I think Pollard has better days ahead of him and he's been pretty bad lately, not because of his skill set, but because they haven't been utilizing him the right way.
Yeah.
I would hold him because you're not going to get the proper value for him. He's going to perform. And then later, if you want to trade him, then trade him.
I'm with you. I think Tony Pollard's a little bit of a buy low right now. Again, let's just bank on talent. Better days ahead for the offense. His value is pretty fucking low. This guy said, do I sell Justin Fields? We briefly touched on it. Yeah, I think. I wouldn't say yes, must sell type of situation, but definitely put some feelers out there. Package Justin Fields with another one of your players. See if you can upgrade at one of the positions you might need, especially running back. If you could put Justin Fields and a running back together and go get Tony Pollard, I'm not opposed to it, right? Let's look at those buy low situations. I think that'd be a really good opportunity. Should I be trying to sell Lamar in my Superflex?
Try to sell Lamar? Nah, the quarterback's so valuable. Lamar probably missed out on 15 points this week, at least, from receivers dropping balls. That's not going to happen on a consistent basis. Hopefully they stop throwing rugby balls to the receivers. I don't know what the fuck's going on there in Baltimore. But Lamar literally had 9 points. He should have had 20 plus if his receivers caught balls. He missed out on 3 touchdowns. You're fine with Lamar. Superflex especially, you're good.
A few rapid fire questions before we begin to sign off. This guy, Tyler, on TikTok said, do I move Saquon? I'm down bad and need to change. I have JT as my RB2.
Look, you got JT as your RB2. Saquon's coming back next week, maybe? Yeah, I just don't think if somebody find a Giants fan. I don't know who's valuing Saquon that high right now. The Giants offense is terrible. He is the only piece there, but even still, he had bad weeks against Dallas. He had bad weeks against every team. Saquon hasn't been good this year. So if you can get a value from him, do it. But I would probably just hold on to him.
Jason on TikTok said, do I trade for Aaron Jones? Aaron Jones, just knowing the running back landscape, might be my favorite buy low.
Okay.
Because he's only basically played 1 week. He's had the hamstring injury. We know that the Packers actually take these types of injuries very seriously, and they're not going to rush someone back. They have the bye right now. He was practicing on a limited basis and then didn't end up playing last night.
Mm-hmm.
The offense's identity is non-existent. They need Aaron Jones back. Aaron Jones you might be able to get for pennies. So I don't trade for Aaron Jones. I think you hold on Aaron Jones. Again, a lot of these comments are, do I trade this person? Do I trade that person? But their values are all super low. So you got to look at it from the opposite side. People are going to be hitting you up for these guys. A few others. Do I give Darren Waller and Amon-Ra for Travis Kelce?
Give up Darren Waller and Amon-Ra for Travis Kelce. I would not. I didn't see Darren Waller's fantasy output this week, but
yeah, he had a decent game.
He had a decent game. I saw he was getting targets. He was finally getting involved. And who's other? Amon-Ra. For Travis Kelce. Nah, I wouldn't do it.
I wouldn't do it either because Travis Kelce's been injured. He's going to be injured. Look, Travis Kelce is the number one tight end you always want, but it's also not like this team has been putting up these crazy statistics like they normally do in September. So I'd rather roll out any tight end and hope for the best and keep Amon-Ra. I think, Amon-Ra is one of the safest floors in fantasy. Few other questions before we sign off. Do I trade away Stephon Diggs and Breece Hall for CeeDee Lamb and Austin Eckler? Absolutely not.
Wait, hold up. Who is it?
Stephon Diggs and Breece Hall for CeeDee Lamb and Austin Eckler.
No, because Stephon Diggs has wide receiver 1 potential every single week, especially with his quarterback. And who's the running back?
I went away from it.
Breece Hall. Breece Hall, we just said he's trending upwards, bro. He's going fucking insane. I get the appeal with Eckler and Lamb, but it doesn't make sense. It's like, as Scott Fantasy Hall of Famer would say when he comes on here, that's a wash. Don't do it.
2 other questions, and then we're going to sign off. User 615 and a ton of fucking numbers just commented 8 times. Do I give Puka Nacua, Travis Etienne, and Chris Godwin for CMC and George Pickens? Let's say it on 3. 1, 2, 3. No. I think Puka, as we've talked about earlier in the episode, top 12 wide receiver this week with Coop. I don't expect them to both be top 12 week in and week out, but I do expect them both to be top 24. Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua are 2 guys that can flourish. And Etienne is, maybe RB. He's a top 5 running back rest of the season, and CMC's just RB1. I'll take my chances with that. And then another one. Thoughts on Devon Achane, RB1 when he comes back? Not too worried about him. How's y'all seeing Kupp moving forward? And then we'll sign off after that. How do you see Cooper Kupp moving forward?
Wide receiver 1 solidified every single week. He's gonna ball out. There's not that much to say. I mean, they played the Eagles, good pass defense, and again, Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua balled out. They got their touches, like 16, I think, between both of them, maybe more. They're fine. McVay's gonna scheme them up. Cooper Kupp, as long as the hamstring's healthy, which if he got involved that much week 1 from his the first week back from his injury, he'll be fine the rest of the season, bro. If somebody wants to trade you the fucking house for him, go ahead.
I agree.
But if not, you're good.
All right. Well, that's all the time we have for this fantasy episode. As a reminder, Felipe and I will be back Thursday to do buy lows and sell highs. The entire episode, we're answering all these questions, who you could trade for. So make sure to come back at 10:30 a.m. on this Thursday, with all your fantasy questions. If you need a fantasy question right now answered, make sure to go follow us on Twitter, the Felipe Fontes on Twitter and TGD Tabs on Twitter. Make sure to ask us fantasy questions. We'll be sure to answer it there. And then tomorrow, make sure to check out our cafeteria episode. If you're new here, if you're from the For You page, welcome. Check out the Caps Off podcast. We got episodes 5 days a week, and then we also do watch-alongs and pregame shows on Sunday for the Sunday slate. So
yeah, also, if you're still sticking around, if you want a chance at a free NFL jersey of your choice, comment. First off, go give us a rating on either Spotify or Apple. Much love.
Whatever you want to rate us.
Yeah, wherever you listen, whatever you want to rate us, or both. Shit, dude. Extra points if you want to rate us on both. And then just comment on our latest TikTok post or Instagram post, whatever it may be. Comment 5 stars, just like the words 5 stars, or maybe just put emojis. I don't care. And you might have a chance to win an NFL jersey of your choice.
Yeah, that winner will be announced October 22nd. So, hopefully we see you tomorrow for the cafeteria episode. And then Thursday, we'll see you again, 10:30 a.m. live. Bye.
See you.